Emergent gameplay is a term you're very familiar with if you're a fan of immersive sims. There is no real quantity that distinguishes emergent gameplay from just gameplay. Instead, it's something that kind of just happens as gameplay systems become more complex and numerous. The simplest way I can describe it is comparing it to sentience in living beings. Does an ant think? Kinda. It can make decisions on what to do, but is it sentient or self-aware? No, but a human is. A human's brain is a lot more complex than that of an ant's, and the processes sustained within are so advanced that sentience emerges as one property from the mundane calculations. In the same way, emergent gameplay happens when the systems are complex enough and can interact with each other to a sufficient degree that the game stops feeling like just a set of mechanics and challenges, and more like something that thinks for itself. A simulation, if you will. An immersive sim, even. Prey 2017 is my favorite immersive sim and among my favorite games in general. The environment design and intertwined gameplay mechanics are nothing short of sublime. Shooting your way through everything is certainly an option, but you can get so much more creative. 3 of the 7 weapons in this game are non-lethal and serve to stun or distract enemies, while the Huntress Boltcaster is a utility for remote interaction with monitors or switches. Use environmental hazards to your advantage. Let automated turrets do the shooting for you, or use neuromod abilities to send enemies on a one-way trip to the Crusher. Hey asshole. Get crushed. Different approaches with different prerequisites and different consequences. The beating heart of the immersive sim. Let's take a look at how some game mechanics combine in natural and intuitive ways. The Mimic Matter ability lets you take the form of a selected object. The Kinetic Blast deals damage and throws objects aback. So why not mimic an object and use the blast on yourself to get yourself to a distant spot? This interaction is an emergent property of the game mechanics rather than an interaction specifically coded in to be possible. Why am I rambling about all this? Well, almost 2 years ago I made a video on why most horror games don't scare me. And the main message from that video relevant to this one is that to make a good horror game, you first have to make a good game. A lot of the classic purebred capital H horror games are glorified walking simulators with stealth elements. The monster is nothing to fear, it's a walking load last save trigger. And back then, Cry of Fear was the only game to have scared me to an impressive degree. Since then, I've played a few others. Dead Space Remake was a good game, but not a very good horror game. The gameplay was fun and I did fear the monsters that were a threat. However, absolutely nothing the game threw at me to scare me did not land whatsoever. I can't really explain why. Even the jump scares where a necromorph suddenly breaks a vent to attack at you did not elicit any reaction in me beyond, oh no, a necromorph broke a vent to attack at me. I felt a strong disconnect between what was happening in the game and my own person. However, I did also play Amnesia the Bunker. Where's he going?
That hole there. Yeah, he's there, right there.
Do you see him?
No, I don't see him, but there's a hole there. I know.
Yeah, I know.
He's there!
Fuck, okay, door.
Go! For the love of God, go!
I didn't have a big interest in the previous Amnesia games because they seemed a bit too walking simulator-y for my taste. However, I learned from watching a Jacob Geller video that the newest release holds a lot more complexity than its predecessors. The game isn't so much about hiding from monsters and solving puzzles, as it is about coming up with solutions to problems dynamically thrown at you by the game world. After a brief 2-part tutorial, the game lets you roam almost the entirety of the bunker. You will soon find that some doors required for progression are locked. It could be that you will unlock them by coming around from the other side, but that's not always an option. You might simply have to find a combination code, or a key, but there's other solutions too. If the door is wooden, it is destructible with a brick or a grenade. Both of these options will make enough noise to attract a specific monster that's hunting you throughout the entire game. Choice and consequence, the beating heart of the immersive sim. Wait, didn't I already... Oh, that guy? You thought I wasn't going to talk about the monster? While he does fit the bill of scary thing trying to kill you, I think there's several factors that make him stand out amongst the horde of uninspired xenomorph wannabes, and they all revolve around sound. This creature has dug out tunnels around the bunker that it uses to travel around. You will frequently hear it shuffling around, relocating somewhere else. You see the holes around almost every corner, knowing the enemy could emerge from any one of them. The game also does a great job at making it feel like the stalker is reacting to the sounds you make. It is very common that simply pulling out your flashlight and cranking it is enough for the monster to hear where you are, and now you're the one hearing it move closer to your location. It won't necessarily emerge to hunt you if the generator is on, but it certainly feels like it could do so at any moment. Furthermore, this interaction also puts an anxiety within you whenever you do need to crank it, or do some other noisy action. You know it will bring the monster closer to you, maybe even provoke an attack, but you also know you have to do it in order to see anything. You pull the cord and... the unmistakable sound of an otherworldly monstrosity crashing around its little holes is the response you get, regardless of the outcome. The next time you have to cast some light on your surroundings, you'll be a bit more anxious about doing so. As a result, the monster feels ever-present and as though it might or might not react to anything you do. Beyond that, his AI is just also really good. I like that it will genuinely walk around looking for you if it's in its hunt mode. You can often hear it breaking doors trying to find you, sometimes even triggering an explosive trap in the process, before scampering back to the safety of its dark holes. The monster isn't an intellectual powerhouse, but its behavior is grounded and believable. It will investigate noises and potential hiding spots while never feeling like it knows exactly where you are. Jacob Geller summarized the fear in this game as an anxiety from making decisions, and I don't think it's quite a complete truth. I think the anxiety comes from the little voice in the back of your head saying, I know something bad might happen if I do this, maybe I shouldn't do this. And yet you just have to do it anyway. The generator is a very interesting mechanic that gives the game a lot of personality and tension. It keeps the lights running, which in itself is a decent help, but this also has the effect of making the monster far less aggressive. Furthermore, it's necessary to have power to complete some story objectives. On higher difficulties, the generator guzzles fuel at an alarming rate, which becomes a precious resource. You're not gonna have enough gasoline to leave it running all the time, so some expeditions into the pitch blackness will be necessary. Furthermore, the room with the generator is also the only room in which you can save. It might be tempting to keep running back and forth to save as often as you can, but doing so will waste generator runtime, and you might run into other unpleasant surprises. The other big problem in this game are corpses. Human corpses. They lay on the ground, surprisingly enough, sometimes in apparently deliberately inconvenient positions, and constantly attract rats. Trying to run over them will result in a lot of damage to you. Perhaps more problematically, it will make you bleed, which will attract rats to follow and harass you further. The easiest way to get rid of these landmines is a Molotov. This will kill the nearby rats and roast the body, meaning the pests won't return. However, this requires you to consume 1 unit of fuel, not to mention the bottle and cloth itself, and you need to have a lighter as well, a premium solution, but there's others. Splashing some gasoline on the body and using a flare or gunshot to set it ablaze is an alternative for a lesser equipped soldier, but simply throwing some meat will lure the rats away and let you pass safely, at least once. Again, decisions. A big thesis of that older video was that horror games need to be able to do something more to you than just send you back to the last checkpoint. This holds true in Amnesia: The Bunker. While the monster itself is often an insta-kill, it's also not always the case. Furthermore, rats, traps and similar hazards will also leave you wounded and crippled, sometimes to the point you wished you did just die. However, damage isn't the only variable. The items you have, how you deal with obstacles, and all that mean that Amnesia the Bunker isn't just a good horror game, it's also a good game. The density and focused nature of the level design is another thing that keeps me coming back. It's a bunker after all, there is no room for excess. I want to also discuss the setting of this game, because I think it's a really compelling one. The game is set in a bunker during World War I. This time period feels like a weird transitional time in my consciousness, at least. A time when guns and electricity are used for some purposes, but not exactly commonplace. They're a novelty, a rarity. The flashlight in the bunker is an electric light, but it feels feeble, frail, prototypical and impractical. Not unlike the war itself, actually. What was then called the Great War was a conflict unlike anything else up until that point, with machines of death and destruction taking center stage. And yet there was still another such war on an even grander scale. The killing was even more efficient and automated with tanks, bomber planes, and portable automatic weapons, and so were the atrocities. This war is more commonly portrayed in popular culture, possibly because it was arguably more influential, especially for the USA. So seeing a game set in the preceding conflict feels a bit more refreshing. It feels like a barely modern and relatable environment, while still being distinctly low-tech, leaving a lot of room for player creativity. Furthermore, this reality of being trapped in a tight and claustrophobic hole in the earth makes you feel like you're closer to whatever lurks beneath than the skies above. If my description of the game mechanics in the bunker did not evoke a connection in your mind between this game and Prey, then I am doing it now. The creative director openly said they were aiming for an immersive sim philosophy for the game, and I think they pulled it off very well. It's not the most complex game, but it's deep and short enough that it leaves me craving more, and I hope further games in the series also follow a similar philosophy, while trying something new. I don't want to see the same game rehashed again due to the success, I just want a good game. Thanks for watching.